So if you didn't watch this year's Politicon, go watch it. It was really, really good. There was some great conversations, some good debates, really good civil discourse, and I was really happy with the result. And the big three debates were Cenk Uyger and Ben Shapiro, Ann Coulter and Anna Kasparian, and Charlie Kirk and Hasan Piker from the Young Turks. Now, the first two were very civil debates, and despite some uproarious moments, all parties remained fairly restrained with the exception of Cenk becoming visibly perturbed by the crowd on a few occasions. And I know I'm going to poison the well here a bit, but these next few clips should show you everything you need to know about the setup for this debate.
But then we got this guy Cenk to debate Ann Coulter.
Jesus Christ, look at his face. He's like, Jesus, I thought Cenk was going to be way more popular than that. I thought he was going to get way more cheers like he did last year.
Last year, we got this guy Ben Shapiro.
I guess Ben made up for all the boos that Cenk got, didn't he?
First, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire and host of the Ben Shapiro Show, Ben Shapiro.
Good moderation of boos and cheers, with more cheers than anything. I wonder what the reaction will be when Cenk steps on.
And founder and host of the Young Turks, Cenk Uyger.
Oh, Cenk. Get fucking wrecked. So I'm not going to go into this debate too much, but there are a few moments when Cenk becomes visibly upset by the fact that his narrative and facts aren't well taken from the crowd. This is the result of confining yourself in an echo chamber. This is what safe spaces will lead to, which is going to be important later in the video.
The exercise of finding the right tax rate is, guys, try to follow along, okay? It's called logic.
See, Cenk, it's been so long since you've allowed anyone to challenge your ideas. This is how you react when you realize your ideology isn't popular with everyone. You end up talking your nose down to the audience, laugh at them, and then they boo you more. And there are more examples. Just watch this.
So, for example, the reason why when taxes are higher, it winds up being better for the economy is because it recirculates the money. So if you give it to the rich, this is hilarious. If you're uneducated, please at least don't make it obvious.
This is the most interesting conversation on taxes I've heard.
If you don't know the concept of recirculation of money, then go look it up.
And the recirculation of money isn't a thing. As Matt Christensen noted, it's Keynesian demand-side theory, but that's not what's important here. You then proceed to insult the crowd and tell them to look it up. Cenk, you don't realize how elitist and snobbish you've become. Instead of educating them, instead of informing them, your automatic reaction is that they're uneducated because they're booing you. And what do you think's gonna happen when you insult them, Cenk? Do you think they're just gonna sit down and shut up because the messianic Cenk Uyger is insulting their blasphemy? No! They're going to hit you with the heckler's veto. You are getting a taste of your own medicine. But I really want to talk about the debate between Hasan Piker and Charlie Kirk. This was a bad debate for so many reasons. If I was going to give a verdict of this debate, it wouldn't have been a draw. It would have been a no contest. And Steve Olakar remained remarkably calm and was constantly trying to refocus the debate. But these two were simply intellectual lightweights. That's not to say that they weren't smart or educated, but they just simply did not have the intellectual acumen or mental agility to sway anyone's opinion. Charlie was terrible He was terrible because he contradicted himself in the entire argument of safe spaces. When he claimed he was against them, but doesn't want to get rid of them, and then he goes on to say he wants them, but he wants his activists and followers to laugh at them. Just, why? And then there's Hasan Piker. Now, I've read in some comments on the original video that he's Cenk's nephew, but I've really found no evidence of it, so if anyone can find this out, please educate me. Hasan was just the textbook caricature of the privileged millennial snob. He was so smug throughout this whole debate, so snobbish, that it was hard for me to follow. I highlighted some of the areas in the clips where he makes this just insufferably smug grin, and he also contradicts himself several times. And I know this is an ad hominem, but just look at his getup. Look at what he's wearing. I mean, Cenk and Ben wore slacks and blazers, Anna and Ann wore business casual dresses, and Charlie mirrored Cenk and Ben. Just look at Hasan and explain to me how he's not the embodiment of the millennial hipster.
It's okay to hear something that you disagree with. You don't have to run into a safe space because you hear something you disagree with.
Look, I know it's just a thing, but really, dude?
And I'm perfectly okay with a socialist having the right to be wrong. I'm perfectly okay with a leftist speaker to come on campus and to tell why they think those ideas are better. And the question I'm going to pose throughout this whole discussion is, why is it that it's always the leftist activists rioting and protesting and storming stages and pulling fire alarms, and us conservatives, we sit quietly when we hear things we disagree with, and then we go back and we say, wait a second, why are you shouting our speakers down and you're rioting and protesting violently on college campuses?
Okay, so he's not wrong. I can't remember the last time I heard about a violent conservative or libertarian protest. I've heard of conservative protests being crashed and turning into fights because progressive counter-protesters intervene and molest the crowds. But you don't see conservative protesters storming the streets in black-clad clothing, wearing bandanas and brandishing baseball bats, tire irons, chains, and bike locks, assaulting people and destroying private property. Do you, Hasan?
Just a
Yes.
peaceful protest, protesting, taking down Robert E. Lee monuments where we, just light torches on fire. It's not that big of a deal. It's not reminiscent of the KKK in any way, shape, or form.
What's with the whataboutery, Hasan? Is that the standard? Is that why it's okay to stage violent riots? Because the KKK burned torches and assaulted people? Are you really saying, yeah, but the KKK did the same thing? Or are you saying that these protests are directed at taking down statues of Robert E. Lee? And I just want to point out something. In Germany, Erwin Rommel is, to this day, considered a national hero. A Nazi general officer is still regarded as one of the greatest military figures of the 20th century. Rommel and Lee were, and still are to this day, regarded as highly respected military officers and humanitarians who just happen to be on the wrong side of history. Your logic is invalid.
So here, you really front-loaded your argument. You basically threw out all your opinions out there. But to start off, I wanted to ask you something. First of all, we don't really have a narrow definition of safe space, and it always seems to me like conservatives are both claiming that liberals are looking for safe spaces, but then they also try to act like they are the victims themselves.
Hasan, they are the victims. They're the victims of the heckler's veto. They are the victims of ideological purity tests. They want their opinions heard, and they want to hear people speak about the issues they're concerned with. And they can't do that when progressive ideologues storm their events, shout them down, and prohibit their exercise of free expression and association. This is the problem.
Do you feel as though the reason for why there is such backlash towards certain conservative speakers, and by the way, you did an interview with Ben Shapiro as well, where he admitted that Berkeley was a very diverse crowd and they welcomed him with open arms, and he was able to have...
They just
the
disinvited
reason
him.
for why they just disinvited him is because the campus was just full. It was fully booked. I don't understand what you want to do.
Fully booked?
What do you want to do?
What, are you kidding me?
And this face is proof that not even Hasan believes this. I don't know if this was Cal's actual reason, but it seems quite clear that Hasan doesn't even believe this claim.
They are shouting him down. The administration says you are not allowed to
It's
come on
not the
campus.
administration, Charlie. It's an unpopular,
Then who would
it's
the
an
chancellor
unpopular
be?
speaker.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, go on.
Look,
Right?
should college administrations not listen to the wants of their students?
No! No, you entitled little pillock! They might be legally adults, but they carry no official political or administrative power because they are children. And I could care less about their backgrounds because that's what they are. There is a reason they have professors. There's a reason they have administrators. There is a reason they have educational advisors and RAs and teaching assistants and deans. They are children. And since when did children know what is best for them? Since when did we start letting children call the shots? And I've been wanting to play this clip for a while. Here are a group of protesters at Ohio State who think they're going to occupy a school building using their political power. This is what happens when children get treated like children because adults act like adults.
Yes, we do. Dr. Drake has said that he will never receive demands, and he will not negotiate with you. So let me go to the next part of my conversation, and this is the part I don't want to give you, but I'm gonna, because I feel you have a right to know this. If you are students, and I think the vast majority of you are, I want you to understand that you are violating the student code of conduct as dictated by Dr. Drake 15 minutes ago to me on the phone. We have chosen to try to work with you this evening because we respect you and this is your university, and we want to have dialogue. We want the dialogue to extend beyond tonight. But if you refuse to leave, then you will be charged with a student code of conduct violation. And I'm telling you this now because I want you to have good thought and careful consideration. If you're here at 5 a.m., we will clear the building and you will be arrested. And we will give you the opportunity to go to jail for your beliefs. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by clear the building?
Our police officers will physically pick you up and take you to a paddy wagon and take you to be arrested.
And what do you think they did? Go Buckeyes.
If they feel like campuses are wasting money on both protecting these speakers because their rhetoric is so violently extremist and targeting specific subsects of society and alienated.
But the thing is, Hasan, most of the speakers are funded by student organizations and not necessarily by the school. And most of them pay for their own security, and administrations or city officials found a way around that by telling security and police to stand down. That is the problem.
I wish people wouldn't protest and let them talk to a crowd of 30 other horny MAGA chuds that basically listen to the racist, violent shit that they have to say. And by the way, no offense, I'm not saying all of you guys are horny MAGA chuds.
Hashtag not all. But again, Hasan, this is why I think that you're actually Cenk's nephew. This is an example of the Young Turks talking their noses down to people who they disagree with, but more importantly, who disagree with them.
The same organization that fights for the rights under the pretense of free speech for Richard Spencer to talk on college campuses and Milo Yiannopoulos to talk on college campuses, for Ted Nugent to talk on college campuses, a person who has called for the assassination of the president.
His name's Ted Nugent, you idiot. And you better choose your next words wisely, because this is the man who composed Stranglehold. So be careful what you say. And I should apologize at the beginning, because I know I'm jumping around in this video a lot, but it was a long video, and there are some parts where the audio is really bad. So, again, I apologize. Please bear with me.
Going back to the safe space argument, I don't understand why people that feel as though they have been victimized by racism or sexism or bigotry or intolerance of any form can't have a singular small area where like-minded individuals and try to meditate. Now, the problem is, you like alcohol, right? I'm assuming you drink alcohol. Do you drink alcohol?
Very little, for those of you that know me, actually.
You like alcohol. Anywhere you want. want. Why would you want to bring alcohol into an AA meeting?
Are you fucking serious, Hasan? Are you really conflating people who are uncomfortable or offended with alternative ideas and philosophies with people who suffer from alcoholism? Because if you are saying that meetings and gatherings in safe spaces are similar to meetings and gatherings at Alcoholics Anonymous, but more importantly, you're saying that these people are suffering from a biological disease. You are saying that these people need treatment because they can't handle free speech.
If you want to go into a safe space and talk to a rape victim about a brutal depiction of rape that you want to talk about, then that seems a little intolerant. I don't understand why you want to do that.
He's not saying that, you dummy. He's saying that he shouldn't be prevented from speaking on college campuses for his ideas and words. He's saying that these safe spaces are creating a generation of young adults who cannot handle the idea of differing opinions. And I'm saying that if these people think they're gonna be triggered, they can simply leave or don't have to attend at all.
Back when I was in a fraternity, actually, at Rutgers University, Tyler Clementi committed suicide. It was national news, and after that, they created the Rainbow Dorms, if I remember correctly. And I feel like if you're discriminated against your entire life, and you come to a diverse campus where people should tolerate you, and then you're bullied by your roommate for something that you can't change about yourself, and you are looking for a safe space would have saved Tyler Clementi's life.
And that whole story truly is sad. It really is sad. But we simply can't know that. This is what we call projection.
So when you're against safe spaces, you're essentially against people that feel like they've been victimized, that do end up harming themselves or committing suicide even in the worst cases possible, and you're against that.
Except he didn't say that. He's not against safe spaces for people who are the victims of assault and violence. He's not against safe spaces for people like alcoholics who want to go and talk about their problems with other alcoholics. He's against safe spaces for people who are afraid of alternative ideas. This is what we call a straw man.
Let's talk about safe. Your definition of a safe space is not what they've become. You're talking about
but you didn't even go to college. You don't know what safe spaces are like in every college. I don't understand.
If you're uneducated, please at least don't make it obvious.
And you see, this is the kind of elitist snobbery that really makes me believe Hasan is Cenk's nephew.
I run an organization on 1,200 college and high school campuses.
You run an organization that tries to indoctrinate youths to an unpopular idea that not a lot of people
to believe.
Wow, that's fucking rich. That is the pot calling the kettle black. A progressive who thinks a conservative activist is trying to indoctrinate kids on college campuses, but seems to deny the fact that liberal professors are not doing the same. I mean, this is literally the emperor has no clothes.
In the values of free markets and the Constitution,
I know.
What's going on with indoctrination on college campuses.
You're such a big free markets fan.
I'm a big free market guy.
No, I understand that. You're such a big free markets fan, except you created an organization that essentially tries to game the system, that it seems as though college campuses that are largely progressive, as you've self-admitted, are not necessarily progressive in their representatives, in the elected student officials.
And as I said before, Hasan, no one gives a shit about elected student officials except you. This doesn't have anything to do with free market principles. They carry no political clout on their college campuses.
There's a difference between a place where people can seek needed mental health assistance and a place where it is discriminatory against other students on campus, and that creates a culture that is inherently, quite frankly, it creates a generation looking to be offended by something with microaggressions and trigger warnings. And they're walking around and saying, I need a safe space because I heard an idea I disagree with.
And that really is the problem. This is the playbook for victim culture. Find an idea you disagree with, manipulate that idea into an historically unpopular ideology like fascism, racism, or Nazism, label the individuals with said idea as ideologues of the former, claim traumatic stress as a byproduct of said idea, petition your college administration to identify the idea or message as dangerous with potentially violent outcomes, have the message shut down, and endlessly repeat.
I love the snowflake narrative that conservatives consistently try to advance when you guys are also snowflakey as hell when it comes to things like Starbucks cups and how this is a Judeo-Christian country whenever the white supremacy narrative is checked by anyone on the other side.
What? Are you actually fucking saying that when Starbucks changes the message on their cups from Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays, that Christians getting pissed because they believe we live in a Judeo-Christian nation is an example of white supremacy? Are you actually making that leap?
Because one of the things that I hate, one of the things that I don't understand, and it really bothers me, is how much conservatives that talk about freedoms and how they're in favor of protecting your freedoms like to infringe on other people's liberties.
Why am I saying doing that? I'm saying you can do that, and there's something very wrong about it, and you're a soft person. For example, if Donald Trump comes to your campus...
Do I strike you as a soft person?
Not you. I'm saying the people that need safe spaces on college campus because Donald Trump shows up.
Yeah, I know. Rape victims are so soft.
No, seriously.
So soft.
And yet, here's another example of Hasan conflating ideological snowflakes with rape victims. And I just want to point out again, Hasan, that when you make this conflation, you are saying that these students who are scared of ideas have a mental disorder. I just want to point that out.
The reality is, the freedom of speech gives you the right to say whatever the hell you want.
But
it doesn't give you the right to be popular.
Okay, now this was actually the best point made and the smartest thing either of the two said throughout the whole debate, and I absolutely agree with Hasan. But the point that Charlie is painfully trying to argue is that if you create safe spaces for ideas, you are not giving the speakers the ability to be unpopular. That is the ultimate point, Hasan.
They say, many of these campuses go out and say, for example, when they disinvite Ben Shapiro at DePaul University, they say so many students are offended by his remarks, he should not be allowed to show up on campus. It feeds
Maybe he should be less offensive.
And this is you petitioning for ideological purity tests. This is you saying that speech is okay as long as it's not offensive. And it's important to note that you didn't say violent. You said offensive. This is the point. If you give these people an inch, they will take a mile. This is you believing in freedom of speech as long as it isn't offensive. This is what Sargon would call the politics of mafeels.
But he might be offensive. Does that mean he should be blocked from campus?
I don't think so, but maybe he should be less offensive.
So which is it, Hasan? Should he be blocked from campus or should he be less offensive? Which one is it? You don't even believe in your own rhetoric. Again, maybe Ben Shapiro should be more concerned about mafeels.
So now you
People
can't have
are
it both
going
ways.
to be offended if you are reactionary in some way and you try to bring about some sort of negative reaction in your commentary by purposely identifying and attacking certain subsects of society.
Well, they're not attacking certain subsects of society. They are attacking ideas. They are criticizing ideas. That's what they're doing. This is you conflating attacking people with attacking ideas.
Ben Shapiro has every right to say whatever he wants, and if they're specifically targeting certain groups and they're upset by that, unfortunately, when you are face-to-face with those people that you are personally attacking, they're going to react.
Dipshit. He's not attacking those people. He's being critical of their ideas. Okay? He's criticizing what they are saying and what they believe. These are not the same thing. He's not attacking them. He's not attacking them as individuals. He is criticizing their ideas. What is it about this that you do not understand?
So, Charlie, I have a question for you. You've talked about the liberal bias in academia.
Yes.
What are the incentives behind that? Like, why did, in your perspective, why did that come to be?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, and it's undeniable that professors are tilted far to the left. An independent study showed that professors 12-1 are registered Democrat versus Republican.
And he's absolutely right, Hasan, and there are literally dozens of articles on the internet just like these. This position is almost axiomatic. Hell, this New York Times article broke the data down even further to note that while in 1989, the number of liberal professors in New England outnumbered their conservative counterparts by a margin of 5-1, by 2014, that number increased to 28-1. Do you see the problem, Hasan? Do you think that some of these professors are going to let their ideological biases get the best of them and matriculate into the classroom?
Grassroots movement of big donors, small donors, tax-deductible organization focused on training, activating, and educating young people around these values.
Indoctrinating people into
enlightening,
progressive ideologies
enlightening
that
and
no one
exposing,
wants.
not
going to play that one again for you. Just listen to this.
Indoctrinating people into
enlightening,
regressive ideologies
enlightening
that
and
no
exposing,
one
not
wants.
Indoctrinating people into regressive ideologies enlightening and exposing, not indoctrinating people into regressive ideologies enlightening and exposing, not
Jesus Christ, it is. The Emperor has no clothes.
That it's more than entirely possible to go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Stanford, and not hear one good thing about a conservative idea for more than 10 minutes in 4 years.
First
It's
of all,
more
I don't
than
agree
entirely
with that because
possible.
Milton Friedman is
Dead.
Jesus Christ, Charlie, shut up.
I understand, but his books are still in classes that are introductory.
What is the most read book in college today? Number one.
I have no idea.
Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto. It is. You can laugh. It's documented by the Council of Higher Education.
I wish more people read it and understood it then. I don't know.
Well, Hasan, I have read it. I've actually read it several times, and it is a treatise whose sole purpose is to destroy the meritocracy through the organization of the masses. It is focused on overthrowing the very thing that made the unions and workers, who were the initial followers of its doctrine, possible, and that is industry by virtue of the free market, by virtue of free market capitalism. It is the manifesto of three of the most oppressive regimes in the modern era. I wish you could understand it, Hasan.
I mean, I think it's contributed to the death of 100 million people in the last 100 years, but
oh,
minor
this
details.
narrative.
So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hasan, this narrative. Go on. Tell me how capitalism has directly targeted, starved, tortured, and murdered anti-capitalists en masse. Go ahead. Tell me how guys like Henry Ford and John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie and Jay Gould were worse than the Kim Dynasty, Pol Pot, Mao, and Stalin. Go on.
I've heard your narrative on democratic socialism and how Bernie has, the movement that Bernie's tried to create in America is responsible for 100 million deaths.
No, he didn't say that. You did. Again, this is a straw man. You are, however, insinuating that Bernie is a believer in Marxist communist ideology. And I hate to say it, but if that's what you're saying, and history is indeed correct, Bernie is advocating a philosophy which seeks to control every facet of the population. Not the government, the citizenry.
Without even considering all the famine and all the deaths that capitalism has brought about and all of the deaths that imperialist efforts of the United States has brought about all around the world.
This is just abjectly false. Literally nothing you just said is true. Everything that you just said is a lie. But let's move on a bit.
But if you're not popular, if you say unpopular things, you're not popular.
He packs rooms when he comes on campus.
Yeah, people that, want to criticize him for the most part.
Yeah, I guess that's what happened right here, Hasan.
But then we got this guy Cenk to debate Ann Coulter.
Cenk Uyger.
Get fucking wrecked.
Bill O'Reilly,
I
know, but Bill O'Reilly, and who's the representative of Fox News, has talked about abolishing the Electoral College and its negative outcomes on the white supremacy, the white establishment.
No, what Bill O'Reilly was talking about was Democrats claiming that left-wing press and establishment wanted to abolish the Electoral College because it would take power away from white males, who make up a large demographic of this country. He was saying that doing away with that system would concentrate the vote on 3 or 4 cities where their vote would no longer matter. And if you think California's vote didn't matter in this election, then talk to the conservatives in Orange County and rural Northern California, because they've been saying their vote hasn't mattered for years.
And now you're the one who's terrified, so much so that you're trying to indoctrinate the youth into thinking that equality is bad, to thinking that all of these opinions are wrong.
Okay, I can't speak for Charlie, but since he's terrible at this, let me answer. No. You are the people with the purity test. Do you like gays? No. Exiled. Do you support abortion? No. Exiled. Hasan, you don't even realize what you're lobbying for. You don't even realize that you're lobbying for a supremacy movement. You are lobbying for a movement that seeks to ensure that all ideas meet the threshold of your ministry of thought. Your idea is so Orwellian that you can't even see the problem.
There's a lot that's wrong with the conservative movement, I'm sorry.
Well,
which is why it's unpopular.
We're winning and you're losing. So that's dishonest. So
I mean, I hate to admit this, but he's absolutely right. We've had 4 special elections and the Republicans have taken all 4. Handle won with like $5 million in funding to Ossoff's $48 million. And Giafort assaulted a journalist, for Christ's sake, and he still won. And you guys are going to say, well, early voting, but okay. You still fucking lost. It doesn't matter if it was by 1 or 100. You fucking lost.
But Hasan, you don't have a problem with Turning Point.
No, of course not. I think it's just ironic that someone who believes in or promotes free market capitalism is so upset with the free marketplace of ideas, basically saying that we like progressive ideas. He's so upset with it that he had to create an organization against it.
Again, you idiot. He's not saying that progressivism is more popular than conservatism. He's saying that conservative voices can't be heard because the heckler's veto, coupled with support from everyone in popular culture, censors the conservative voice. That's what he's saying.
that a liberal should not be allowed on a college campus. Why? No. Why don't conservative groups picket and protest, pull fire alarms, and storm the stages?
Wait, have you heard of a little movement called the Tea Party? I'm sorry.
You know what? I'm not even going to get deep into this. I'm just going to encourage all the viewers of this video to type into YouTube, Tea Party protesters get violent. Don't be disappointed at the search results.
Right now, conservatives are not the underdog. Democrats are.
Where? Where, Hasan? Middle America? In Wisconsin? Pennsylvania? North Carolina? Ohio? Michigan? It's definitely not in New York or California or Illinois or Massachusetts. Maybe you meant college campuses, because the only places I can think of where Democrats are the underdogs are like Liberty University and Brigham Young. Tell me where Democrats are the underdogs in mainstream America.
They have a right. They have a right to be offended. They have a right to be upset.
They don't have a right to shut someone up when they visit on campus.
Case fucking closed. But don't worry, folks. It gets way better. Just listen to this crap.
Do they not teach the Constitution in
let me finish this
constitutional
thought.
law classes now all of a sudden?
Well,
like, I don't understand. Like,
they really don't. It's this really revisionist history. It's not an originalist interpretation of the Constitution.
Wow.
So they don't teach it. So
really? Hey, you didn't go to college, so maybe you didn't take a constitutional
thank goodness
law
I didn't.
If you're uneducated, please at least don't make it obvious.
Ugh. This is just so hard to listen to. He's just such an elitist snob. He has no idea how privileged he is.
So exactly. What's your attack that just because I haven't taken a constitutional law course, I don't know what happens at many campuses of which I have activists and staff members, and I'm hearing about it. That's your attack.
That's my attack. Yeah.
So you.
Yeah, that's right. Considering no one on the stage has taken a constitutional law class. Okay, this last one is what I'll leave you with. And Hasan's face should tell you everything you need to know about how the left thinks of itself.
You obviously work with a lot of student activists across the country. What are some of the big issues you hear about? What would you say are the top 3 issues you hear repeatedly across college campuses?
I'm going to leave the rest for you guys to watch. I just thought you all should see the level of intellectual rigor that comes with the Young Turks, but more importantly, progressive ideology. Conflation, ridicule, and sophistry will forever be their greatest and most effective weapons. However, Hasan is young, and he simply doesn't know any better. But like the Cenk Uyger Ben Shapiro debate, once they come to battle someone with a high amount of mental agility, they find that their ideology is invalid, and their rhetorical narratives are nothing more than ideological bigotry.